8 guys, 1 dorm, and 1 member whose mess became a running joke for years. Stray Kids have lived, worked, and practically breathed on top of each other since their trainee days. When you share that kind of space, you learn exactly who scrubs the counter after cooking and who leaves ramen bowls stacked like modern art on the nightstand. Hyunjin, the group's self-appointed cleanliness commentator, has dropped his verdict across multiple variety shows, live streams, and behind-the-scenes moments. He's ranked his members from the tidiest to the one who treats the floor like a second closet. And some of these picks genuinely surprised fans. So out of all 8 Stray Kids members, who keeps their space spotless enough to film a home tour, and who would need a hazmat warning before you open their door? 7 members. 1 ranking. Let's get into it. Number 7. The quiet perfectionist, Lee No. In a group where chaos is practically a love language, Lee Miho operates on a different frequency. He doesn't lecture anyone about cleanliness. He doesn't make a show of organizing his belongings. He just does it quietly, consistently, and without expecting applause. That's exactly why Hyunjin placed him at the bottom of the messiness scale and firmly at the top of the clean list. Lee No's reputation for discipline runs deeper than just a tidy shelf. Fans who've followed Stray Kids since their 2018 debut know that Miho has always carried himself with a certain self-sufficiency that the other members openly acknowledge. During dorm life, while others debated whose turn it was to take out the trash, Lee No was the type to just handle it. Not because someone asked, because it bothered him if it sat there. A big part of understanding his habits comes down to one thing: his cats. Lee No is the proud owner of 3 cats, Sunny, Doonji, and Dory. Anyone who's lived with even 1 cat knows the deal. Litter needs changing. Forgets everywhere. Feeding stations need to stay clean or the cats simply won't eat properly. Multiply that responsibility by 3, and you've got a person who has no choice but to maintain a baseline level of order in his living space. But here's the thing: Lee No doesn't treat it like a chore. Across countless vlogs and Instagram stories, he's shown himself cooking for his cats, grooming them, and keeping their space comfortable. You don't do that consistently unless cleanliness is just wired into your routine. Then there's the cooking. Lee No is widely considered the best cook in Stray Kids. He's demonstrated his skills on variety shows, in dorm vlogs, and during fan content. What separates him from the kind of person who just throws ingredients together is the process. He preps. He plates properly. And crucially, he cleans as he goes. Multiple members have mentioned that when Lee No uses the kitchen, it doesn't look like a disaster zone afterward. That's a small detail, but it reveals a lot. People who clean while they cook are people who fundamentally cannot tolerate mess building up around them. During a 2022 episode of Stray Kids reality content, the members discussed living habits, and Lee No's name consistently came up as someone who just keeps things in order without being asked. It wasn't framed as something remarkable, it was stated as a known fact. The same way you'd say water is wet. Miho is clean. That's just how it is. What makes his placement at number 7, the cleanest spot, interesting is that Lee No isn't strict about it with others. He's not the member who nags. He doesn't scold anyone for leaving dishes in the sink. He handles his own space, keeps it the way he likes it, and moves on. That kind of quiet consistency is actually harder to maintain than the dramatic deep clean once a month approach. It means the habit is internalized, not performative. There's also his personal style to consider. Lee No is known for his sharp fashion sense, both on and off stage. His outfits are coordinated, his accessories are deliberate, and his appearance rarely looks thrown together, even in casual settings. That attention to detail in how he presents himself extends naturally to how he keeps his environment. People who care about how they look tend to care about how their space looks. It's the same instinct applied in 2 directions. Hyunjin, who has roomed near Lee No and shared living spaces throughout their trainee and debut years, has spoken about Miho's habits with a mix of respect and mild bewilderment, as if he can't quite figure out how someone stays that consistent without visible effort. And that's the key word, effort. For Lee No, it doesn't seem to require any. The tidiness isn't a project. It's a default setting. So at the very foundation of this ranking sits Lee Miho, not the loudest about cleanliness, Not the one who brags about a spotless room, but the one who simply lives that way every single day. No fanfare. No reminders taped to the fridge. Just a clean space, 3 well-cared-for cats, and a kitchen that somehow looks untouched even after a full meal. But if Lino sets the gold standard, the member at number 6 might surprise you, because leadership doesn't always come with a mop. Number 6, the leader who cleans on a deadline, Bang Chan. Being the leader of an 8-member K-pop group under one of South Korea's biggest entertainment companies doesn't leave much room for domestic perfection. Bang Chan, born Christopher Bang in Sydney, Australia, has carried the weight of Stray Kids' creative direction since before the group even officially debuted. He produces, he writes, he arranges, he mentors, and he barely sleeps. And yet, despite a schedule that would break most people in half, Hyunjin ranked him as the second cleanest member in the group. That placement says something important. It's not that Bang Chan has the time to be tidy. It's that he makes the time, even when logic says he shouldn't have any left. Fans who've watched Stray Kids' journey from their 2017 survival show through their rise to stadium-level performers know one thing about Chan. The man practically lives at the studio. His late-night vlive sessions, famously known as Chan's Room, have shown him broadcasting from JYP Entertainment's production rooms well past midnight, sometimes into the early hours of the morning. Members have openly said that Chan sometimes doesn't come back to the dorm at all, choosing to sleep at the studio after marathon production sessions for tracks he's working on. When your bed is a studio couch 3 nights a week, keeping a spotless living space becomes a logistical challenge. But here's what separates Chan from someone who just let things pile up. Multiple members, across various behind-the-scenes clips and reality content, have noted that when Chan is in the dorm, he doesn't tolerate his personal area looking neglected. He's described as someone who does quick, efficient cleanups, not deep organizing sessions, but targeted sweeps. Clothes get folded or hung. Surfaces get cleared. Things go back to where they belong. It's the military-style approach to tidiness, fast, functional, no wasted movement. Part of this comes from his upbringing. Chan moved from Sydney to Seoul as a teenager to train under JYP Entertainment. He left his family behind at an age when most kids are still figuring out how to do their own laundry. That kind of early independence tends to build habits that stick. When no one's picking up after you at 14 in a foreign country, you either learn to manage your space or you drown in it. Chan learned. His leadership role also plays into it. Chan has spoken multiple times about feeling responsible for the group's overall environment, not just musically, but practically. In interviews and group content, he's the one who nudges members about shared spaces. He's not aggressive about it. He doesn't police anyone. But there's a quiet standard he holds, and it starts with his own corner. Leading by example isn't just a phrase for Bang Chan, it's operational policy. There's another layer to this that fans often overlook. Chan is a producer who works with sound equipment, laptops, external drives, cables, and notebooks filled with lyrics and arrangements. Anyone who's worked in music production knows how quickly a workspace can descend into chaos, tangled cables, scattered USB drives, sticky notes everywhere. Chan has shown his studio setup on camera multiple times, and it's consistently organized. His monitors are positioned deliberately. His desk isn't buried under clutter. His headphones have a spot. That kind of workspace discipline doesn't happen by accident. It reflects a mind that functions better in order. What makes his number 6 ranking notable is the gap between his potential for mess and his actual output. By every measurable standard, Bang Chan should be too exhausted and too stretched to care about whether his jacket is draped over a chair or hung in a closet. The fact that he cares anyway, that he takes those extra 30 seconds to put things right, tells you that cleanliness isn't something he does when he has energy to spare. It's something he does because not doing it would feel wrong. Hyunjin placing him just 1 spot below Lino is a tight race, and the distinction likely comes down to consistency. Lino is always around to maintain his space. Chan sometimes vanishes into the studio for days. When he's present, his standards match. When he's gone, the gap shows not because he's messy, but because he's simply not there. Now, if the 2 cleanest members are defined by discipline and routine, The member at number 5 brings something a little different to the table, a gentleness that extends to how he treats his surroundings. Number 5. The gentle organizer, Felix. There's a specific kind of person who doesn't just clean because the mess bothers them. They clean because leaving things out of place feels like leaving something unfinished. Felix, born Lee Yongbok in Sydney, Australia, is that person. Hyunjin placed him right in the middle of the ranking, and when you look at how Felix moves through shared spaces, that placement makes perfect sense. He's not obsessively tidy. He's not indifferent either. He operates in a sweet spot where things get put back, surfaces stay clear, and no one ever has to remind him. What makes Felix's cleanliness habits distinct from the members ranked above him is the motivation behind them. Lino keeps things clean because disorder seems to genuinely irritate him. Bang Chan does it out of discipline and leadership instinct. Felix does it because he's wired to be considerate. His tidiness isn't about his own comfort, it's about not making someone else's day harder. That difference matters, and it shows up in the details. The most visible evidence of this comes from Felix's most well-documented hobby, baking. Felix doesn't just dabble in it. He bakes regularly, cakes, brownies, cookies, bread, and he's become so associated with it that fans, members, and even JYP Entertainment staff expect deliveries from him. He's shown his baking process across vlogs, Instagram stories, and group content dozens of times. And anyone who bakes seriously knows the truth about it. Baking is one of the messiest activities you can do in a kitchen. Flour dust settles on every surface. Mixing bowls stack up. Batter splatters. Eggshells pile up next to measuring cups. The potential for a kitchen disaster is enormous. Yet when Felix finishes baking, the kitchen doesn't look like a crime scene. He cleans as he works, wiping down counters between steps, putting ingredients back in their place, washing bowls before moving to the next stage. Members have noted this. The kitchen after a Felix baking session looks close to how it looked before he started. That's not accidental behavior. That's a person who's internalized the idea that the mess you make is yours to handle, and you handle it before it becomes someone else's problem. This consideration extends beyond the kitchen. Felix has a reputation within the group for being one of the most emotionally attentive members. He remembers small things. He checks in on people. He notices when someone's energy is off. That same attentiveness applies to physical spaces. When Felix uses a shared area, whether it's the living room, the practice room, or a dressing room backstage, he tends to leave it the way he found it. It's not dramatic. It's not performative. It's just how he operates. During dorm life segments and behind-the-scenes content, Felix's personal area has consistently appeared neat without being sterile. His belongings are arranged, but there's warmth to it, plushies on the bed, personal items displayed intentionally, not just thrown somewhere. It's organized in a way that reflects personality rather than rigidity. He's not minimalist about it. He just knows where everything goes and puts it there. There's also the Australian factor. Like Bang Chan, Felix left his family in Sydney to pursue his career in South Korea at a young age. He's spoken about the adjustment, learning to live independently, managing his own space, navigating daily life in a language he was still mastering at the time. That early self-reliance, combined with a naturally gentle disposition, produced someone who handles his environment with care. Not because anyone's watching, but because it aligns with how he treats everything and everyone around him. What likely keeps Felix at number 5 instead of climbing higher is consistency under pressure. During packed promotional periods, comeback weeks, concert tours, overseas schedules, even the tidiest habits can slip. Felix has admitted in casual conversations during lives that things get chaotic when schedules intensify. The intent is always there. The execution depends on whether he's had more than 4 hours of sleep. That honesty, paired with his general track record, puts him squarely in the middle. Cleaner than average, not quite automatic like the two above him. Hyunjin's ranking reflects that balance. Felix isn't the member you'd worry about if you opened his door unannounced. But he's also not the member who'd pass a military inspection without 20 minutes of warning. Up next at number 4, a member whose love for comfort and order runs quieter than most people realize. Number 4. The quiet perfectionist in comfort, Seungmin. Kim Seungmin doesn't make noise about how he likes things. He just likes them a certain way, and if they're not that way, he'll fix it himself without turning it into a group discussion. Hyunjin placed him at number 4, right at the tipping point between the cleaner half and the messier half of Stray Kids. And for anyone who's paid attention to Seungmin's personality over the years, that placement fits like a glove. Seungmin's approach to cleanliness is rooted in something specific, comfort. He's not chasing spotless surfaces for their own sake. He's not organizing color-coded bins like a lifestyle influencer. He simply doesn't enjoy being in a space that feels chaotic. There's a difference between wanting a room to look perfect and wanting a room to feel right. Seungmin is firmly in the second category. His priority is that his environment feels settled, a place where he can relax, recharge, and exist without visual clutter pulling at his attention. This makes more sense when you look at how Seungmin spends his downtime. He's one of Stray Kids' most dedicated baseball fans, loyal to the Doosan Bears and known for attending games whenever his schedule allows. He reads. He listens to music deliberately, not just as background noise. He's a person who values focused, intentional relaxation. And that kind of downtime hits differently when your space supports it. You can't settle into a book when you're sitting on a pile of laundry you've been ignoring for a week. Seungmin seems to understand that instinctively. Within the group dynamic, Seungmin occupies an interesting position. He's known for being direct, blunt even. While some members dance around uncomfortable observations, Seungmin will just say it. If something's messy, he'll point it out, not with malice, but with the straightforward energy of someone who genuinely doesn't see the point in pretending a problem isn't there. This directness has come through in group content multiple times. During dorm segments and behind-the-scenes clips, Seungmin has been the member who'll look at a cluttered table and simply ask why it's like that. Not a complaint, just a question. But the question itself reveals his baseline expectation: things should be in order. His vocal identity actually mirrors this trait in an unexpected way. Seungmin is widely regarded as one of Stray Kids' most technically clean vocalists. His tone is clear. His pitch is precise. His delivery doesn't rely on stylistic excess. It relies on control and accuracy. There's a parallel between how he approaches singing and how he approaches his living space. Both are about eliminating unnecessary noise. Both prioritize clarity over complexity. It's the same personality expressing itself in two different domains. During various reality and variety appearances, Seungmin's personal spaces have appeared consistently tidy in a lived-in way. Not museum-level pristine, that would conflict with his comfort-first approach. But organized enough that you can tell someone actively maintains it. Bed made, but not with hospital corners. Desk clear, but with personal items placed where he wants them. Clothes put away, but not necessarily folded to perfection. It's maintenance-level tidiness. The kind that requires regular small efforts rather than occasional dramatic overhauls. What likely positions Seungmin at 4 rather than higher is a matter of priority hierarchy. When schedules get intense, and Stray Kids schedules are famously relentless, Seungmin's energy goes to performance, recording, and content first. The tidiness doesn't disappear, but it shifts from active upkeep to minimum viable order. Things stay acceptable, not immaculate. He's not the type to lose sleep over an unmade bed if he has an early schedule the next morning. The room stays functional. It just doesn't stay showcase ready. There's also the social element. Seungmin has described himself in interviews and group interactions as someone who values his personal space. He recharges alone. He needs quiet time. That means his room isn't just where he sleeps, it's where he restores himself. Keeping that space comfortable isn't vanity or habit. It's self-preservation. A messy room would compromise the one place where he gets to decompress, and Seungmin is too self-aware to let that happen without pushback. Hyunjin's ranking acknowledges all of this. Seungmin isn't the cleanest member because cleanliness isn't his primary goal. Comfort is. But because comfort and cleanliness overlap more often than not, he lands solidly in the upper middle tier, a member whose space works for him, maintained just well enough to serve its purpose. Coming up at number 3, the youngest member, proving that age and tidiness don't always follow the pattern you'd expect. Number 3. The magne who grew up, I.N. In every K-pop group, the youngest member starts at a disadvantage when it comes to domestic reputation. The magne gets babied. The magne gets things done for them. The magne gets a longer leash on responsibilities because the older members instinctively cover for them. Young Hyunjin, Stray Kids' youngest, better known as I.N, entered that exact dynamic when the group debuted in 2018. He was 16. And like most 16-year-olds sharing a living space with 7 older guys, tidiness was not at the top of his priority list. What makes Hyunjin's decision to place I.N at number 3 significant isn't where Hyunjin is now. It's the distance between where he started and where he landed. Early dorm era Stray Kids content tells its own story. During the group's first couple of years, I.N was openly the member who benefited most from the older members' patience. He was young. He was adjusting to idol life. He was balancing school commitments with a debut schedule that would overwhelm most adults. Keeping his space immaculate was simply not a realistic expectation, and the group understood that. Members have referenced in passing during vlives, variety shows, and behind-the-scenes content that the younger Hyunjin had a more relaxed relationship with organization. Not destructively messy. Just the standard level of disorder you'd expect from a teenager whose life had been turned inside out by fame. But then something shifted. And it didn't happen overnight, it accumulated gradually, in the way real personal growth always does. As Stray Kids moved through comeback cycles, world tours, and the natural maturing that happens when years pass inside an intense shared environment, I.N started changing how he managed his personal space. Members began noticing. Not in dramatic, made-for-camera revelations, but in the casual, offhand way people notice when someone quietly levels up. A comment here about Hyunjin's room looking different. An observation there about him putting things away without being prompted. Small data points that, over time, painted a clear picture. The magne was growing up, and his space was reflecting it. This evolution tracks with I.N's broader transformation within the group. Fans who followed Stray Kids from their survival show era through their 2020s global expansion watched Hyunjin shift from the shy, braces-wearing youngest member into a confident performer with a clear sense of identity. His vocals matured. His stage presence sharpened. His interactions with the older members shifted from deferential to equal. That kind of personal development doesn't stay confined to the stage. When someone starts taking themselves more seriously as an individual, they start taking their environment more seriously too. I.N's improving tidiness habits weren't a separate storyline, they were part of the same growth arc. What's particularly telling is how the other members responded to this change. In group dynamics as tight as Stray Kids, any genuine behavioral shift gets noticed and commented on. And the tone around I.N's cleanliness evolution has consistently been positive, not surprised, not mocking, but genuinely appreciative. Members have acknowledged that Hyunjin has become more self-sufficient in managing his space. That acknowledgement matters because it confirms the change is real and sustained, not a one-week effort that faded after the cameras stopped rolling. There's also a practical element at play. As Stray Kids' fame grew, the members' living situations evolved. More personal space. More autonomy over how that space looks and functions. For I.N, having his own room, as opposed to the tighter shared configurations of early dorm life, likely accelerated his tidiness habits. When a space is entirely yours, the mess is entirely yours too. There's no ambiguity about who left that jacket on the floor. That kind of direct accountability changes behavior faster than any amount of nagging from Hyungs ever could. Hyunjin placing I.N at number 3, just past the midpoint, leaning toward the Messiest side, reflects both the progress and the remaining gap. Hyunjin has come a long way from the teenage trainee who let things slide. He actively maintains his space now. He puts effort into it. But he hasn't yet reached the level of ingrained, automatic habit that defines the members ranked below him on the messiness scale. The effort is visible. The intention is clear. The consistency is still catching up. And that's precisely what makes his placement feel honest. Hyunjin isn't penalizing I.N for where he used to be. He's acknowledging where Hyunjin is now, a member who's still building the habit, still trending in the right direction, and earning his place through genuine, measurable improvement rather than overnight transformation. But at number 2, the next member's placement genuinely caught fans off guard because his entire public image suggests the opposite of what you'd expect. Number 2, the surprise clean freak, Changbin. This is where Hyunjin's rankings started raising eyebrows. Changbin, the member whose stage presence is built on raw intensity, aggressive rap delivery, and a physical build that screams gym over broom, landed at number 2. Not number 2 cleanest. Number 2 messiest. Meaning he's the second tidiest member in all of Stray Kids. And for a lot of fans, that didn't compute. The confusion makes sense on the surface. Changbin's public persona is loud, physical, and unapologetically chaotic in the best way. He's 1/3 of 3 Racha, Stray Kids in-house production unit alongside Bangchan and Han. His rap verses hit like blunt force. His energy during performances is volcanic. He's built like someone who spends serious time lifting heavy things and putting them back down, which he does regularly. Changbin's dedication to fitness is well documented across social media, fan events, and group content. He's the member most likely to be found in a gym at odd hours. None of that screams person who folds his laundry immediately after the dryer stops. And yet, that's closer to reality than most people would guess. Across multiple instances of dorm life content, behind-the-scenes footage, and casual group conversations, a consistent picture of Changbin's domestic habits has emerged. He keeps his space clean. Not performatively. Not because someone's filming. He just doesn't like living in disorder. Members have commented on this with a specific tone reserved for things that are well-established and no longer surprising to anyone inside the group, even if fans are still catching up. The key to understanding Changbin's tidiness is his personality beneath the stage persona. Off-camera and away from performance mode, Changbin is one of the softest members of Stray Kids. He's emotionally open. He cries during meaningful moments without embarrassment. He expresses affection physically and verbally with a frequency that sometimes catches even his members off guard. This isn't a secret. It's one of the most enduring contrasts in the group and something fans have celebrated for years. The scary rapper, who's actually a teddy bear dynamic, is central to Changbin's identity within the fandom. That softness extends to how he treats his environment. Changbin has described in various settings that he prefers his space to feel settled and functional. He doesn't want to come back from a long schedule and face a room that adds to his stress. He wants to walk in, see things where they belong, and decompress. That's not a cleanliness philosophy, it's a self-care strategy. And Changbin, despite the tough exterior, is someone who clearly thinks about what he needs to feel okay at the end of a long day. His fitness routine actually reinforces this. People who maintain disciplined workout schedules tend to carry that discipline into other areas of their lives. It's a well-documented behavioral pattern. The same impulse that gets Changbin to the gym consistently, the drive to maintain, to not let things slip, to stay on top of a routine, applies to how he manages his living space. Gym clothes get washed, not left in a pile. Protein shakers get rinsed, not abandoned on a nightstand. The routine is the routine, whether it involves a barbell or a laundry basket. What puts Changbin at number 2 rather than competing for Lino's top spot likely comes down to the nature of his tidiness. Changbin is reactive rather than preemptive. He cleans up after the fact. He restores order once it's been disrupted. Lino, by contrast, seems to prevent disorder from forming in the first place. It's the difference between someone who washes dishes after dinner and someone who washes each pot the moment it's no longer on the stove. Both approaches result in a clean kitchen. But the timing reveals a different relationship with mess. Changbin tolerates brief windows of chaos. He just closes them quickly. There's also the studio factor. Like Bangchan and Han, Changbin spends significant time in production studios working on music. But unlike the creative whirlwind that can accompany extended writing sessions, Changbin's workspace has appeared organized when shown on camera. Not sterile, but managed. Notebooks stacked. Headphones placed. The environment of someone who respects the tools they work with. Hyunjin's placement of Changbin here feels like an insider observation that only someone who's lived alongside him for years would make with confidence. From the outside, Changbin at number 2 is a plot twist. From the inside, it's apparently just Tuesday. And now, the member who sits alone at number 1. The member whose name comes up every single time cleanliness is discussed in Stray Kids. The one whose habits have become legendary, and not for the reasons you'd put on a resume. Number 1, the undisputed king of chaos, Han. Nobody was surprised. Not the members. Not the fans. Not even Han himself. When Hyunjin revealed who sat at the very top of his messiness ranking, Han Jisung's name landed with the weight of an inevitability that had been building for years. This wasn't a controversial pick. This wasn't a close call. This was a verdict that every single person who's followed Stray Kids behind the scenes had already mentally filed away as established canon. Han is the messiest member of Stray Kids, and at this point, disputing it would be like arguing with gravity. The evidence isn't hidden. It's scattered, quite literally, across years of content. Dorm tours, behind-the-scenes footage, vlives, variety show confessions, group interviews where the topic of living habits inevitably gravitates toward Jisung like a compass finding north. Every time the question of messiness comes up in Stray Kids, Han's name surfaces within seconds. Not as an accusation, as a fact of life. The sky is blue. Water flows downhill. Han's room is a disaster zone. Members have described walking into Han's space and finding clothes on the floor, on chairs, draped over surfaces that were never designed to hold clothing. Snack wrappers making their way to locations that defy logical explanation. Belongings migrating from their designated spots to wherever Jisung happened to be standing when he lost interest in holding them. It's not filth, it's entropy. Han doesn't create grime. He creates a landscape where objects are governed by impulse rather than organization. And here's the thing that makes this ranking feel honest rather than cruel. Han doesn't deny it. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't promise to change and then quietly go back to his ways. He owns it with the casual acceptance of someone who has made peace with a fundamental aspect of his personality. When members bring it up, and they bring it up often, Jisung's response typically ranges from a sheepish laugh to outright agreement. There's no shame in it because, within Stray Kids, it's never been treated as a character flaw. It's a running gag that everyone, including Han, participates in willingly. Understanding why Han operates this way requires looking at how his brain works. Jisung is, by any measure, one of the most creatively explosive members of Stray Kids. As 1/3 of 3 Racha, he writes at a pace that borders on compulsive. Lyrics pour out of him during car rides, meal breaks, and random moments of downtime. He's described his creative process as something that interrupts everything else. An idea arrives, and everything that isn't that idea becomes invisible. The plate he was eating from. The jacket he just took off. The charger he unplugged and set down somewhere between the couch and the hallway. When your mind moves that fast, your physical environment pays the price. This isn't an excuse. It's a pattern that anyone who's known a highly creative person recognizes instantly. The mess isn't laziness. It's the physical residue of a mind that's already 3 thoughts ahead of its body. Han's room looks the way it does because Han's attention is permanently allocated elsewhere, to a lyric he's turning over, a melody he's humming under his breath, a joke he's about to land. Tidiness requires a specific kind of present moment awareness that simply isn't where Jisung's brain lives most of the time. Hyunjin, who's been candid about this ranking across multiple occasions, has never framed Han's messiness as a genuine complaint. The tone is always affectionate. It's the way you talk about a sibling whose habits drive you slightly insane, but whom you'd never actually want to change. Because the same wiring that makes Han leave his socks in the living room is the wiring that makes him one of the most prolific songwriters in 4th-generation K-pop. You don't get one without the other. What elevates Han to undisputed number 1 rather than just slightly messier than I.N or Seungmin is the consistency. This isn't a phase. This isn't a bad month. This has been documented across multiple years, multiple living situations, and multiple member testimonies that all converge on the same conclusion. Han's relationship with tidiness is not evolving. It's stable. Predictably, reliably, almost admirably stable in its chaos. And yet, through all of it, not a single member has ever expressed genuine frustration. That tells you everything about how Stray Kids function as a unit. They don't love Han despite his messiness. They love him with it because the mess is part of the package, and the package includes one of the most talented, funniest, and most emotionally generous people in their lives. The king holds his crown. And his crown is probably somewhere under a pile of hoodies he swore he'd fold last week. Strip away the comedy and the fan debates, and Hyunjin's ranking reveals something more interesting than who folds their shirts. It's a map of 8 different personalities navigating the same shared life. Lino's tidiness is instinctive. Bang Chan's is principled. Felix's is compassionate. Seungmin's is self-preserving. I.N's is aspirational. Changbin's is surprising. And Han's chaos is the byproduct of a mind that simply refuses to slow down long enough to notice the mess it leaves behind. None of these habits make any member better or worse than another. They make them human, 8 distinct people who've chosen to build a career and a life together, dirty dishes and all. That's Stray Kids. Messy where it doesn't matter. Flawless where it does. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you in the next one.